Moving on to 7G, state median income, parent voices. Turn it on.
Turn it
there
on.
You go.
There we go. Okay. I do that every time. Good afternoon. My name is Clarissa Douthard. I'm the director and organizer of Parent Voices Oakland, the Northern Alameda County chapter of Parent Voices. What I'd like to do today is speak about the SMI issue from the community perspective and illustrate the reality many families are facing as they navigate the difficult work of providing for their families while not having the resources to cover the full cost of childcare. Currently, the state median income, or SMI, is extremely outdated. The current SMI is based on 2005 income. Having an income ceiling based on 10-year-old data means that families are hitting the income ceiling and lose their child care subsidy once their gross income reaches just 60% of what would be the current 2013 SMI. Our system forces families into a cycle where they hit a ceiling and cannot earn more money, or they step over the line and fall completely off of a cliff, at risk of joining 200,000 plus other families on the waiting list. One example of having to make such impossible choices is Eloise, a pharmacy technician, who was forced to pass up a raise of $1.82, despite being tapped multiple times to advance in her position. Eloise watched many of the technicians she trained herself get promotions and move up the ladder, one by one, passing her by to build the future she was striving for. All because of a raise of $1.82 does not cover the cost of care for 2 toddlers by any stretch of the imagination. Also, parents like Afuru Lynch live in constant fear of any changes after securing a coveted child care subsidy once they are called from the waiting list. Afuru has testified in front of this committee and was on the waiting list for 4 years. She was recently called for a child care subsidy, and because Alameda County is an extremely high-cost county, Afuru struggled to find a provider that could or would take a parent with a subsidy. After scrambling to find a provider, she soon learned that she was 1 raise away from losing the subsidy she'd waited 4 years to secure. She could not end up right back on the waiting list. She can't end up back on the waiting list for doing what subsidies and work supports were intended to help families do, which is progress. To be held back by a program that is supposed to support your growth is completely demoralizing. And yet families have no choice but to roll with this every day and be faced with an inhumane set of decisions. We can put a stop to this during this budget cycle. By updating the SMI, we can ensure that we protect children and their families from the devastation that being caught without a safety net brings. By updating the SMI to 2013, the income for a family of 3 would increase by $585. That is a 17% increase in income, which means parents can continue to do the hard work every single day without disrupting the development and success of their children. As a mother who has experienced the consequences of this backward, ineffective policy, I can tell you that it is unbearable to watch your child struggle every day because the resources simply were not there to provide a solid foundation. In an effort to be prudent and tighten our collective belts, the governor has completely cut off the oxygen supply for so many families and children. We are urging the legislature to update the SMI by rejecting the trailer bill language that keeps the SMI frozen at 2005 income limits. And we'd also like you to support an increase to general child care funding by $600 million and support legislation around 12-month eligibility, which was spoken about quite a bit today. To quote Eloise, "You cannot put a price tag on our children. There is no price for being able to drop your child off and know that they are loved and cared for. You cannot put a price tag on all of the care that my son gets when I leave him to go to work." Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Stowe.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I really appreciate your testimony. I've been told, though, that those years of analysis are 2007, not 2005. So I don't know if we can get a clarification on that. But let me just say this, that, you know, just putting it to any particular percentage of the median is a disincentive for those that we're trying to help from incentivizing themselves to do better and to elevate themselves out of poverty. So Number one, and we mentioned it before, we need a contemporary formula based on 2014 medians. And if we have to discount it down, let's know what our delta, what our gap is. But I also believe that there should be incentives for people that are working to better their lives, pulling themselves out of poverty, trying to help their children. And it should be just a baseline to get you into the program and not penalize over a long period of time while you're elevating yourself out of poverty. So you have an entry level to get you in, and then you got a 5 to 10 year period to do better before you're really evaluated again to get out of the program.
So there's no ceiling in terms of the income?
Over a specified period of time to allow you to come out of poverty, and so that you can hire your own child care people, that you can go to school and get an education and not take a step forward as the program gives you, and then because of your success, you take 3 steps backwards.
Right.
So that's something that we need to look at fixing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions on this panel? We'll move on to the final 7H, Trailer Bill Child Care Law Center. Anna Levine with the Law Center.
Good afternoon, Senators. The Child Care Law Center proposes an amendment to the budget to eliminate language that prevents parents and children from receiving Stage 3 CalWORKs child care unless they transition directly from Stage 1 or Stage 2. And we've provided this language, and it's on the agenda. Why is this a problem? This might seem very minor or technical, but it has huge implications. The problem is that many low-income parents and children need childcare, participated in CalWORKs, but never or only briefly received childcare, and now have been timed out for more than 2 years. The budget language that prevents these families from obtaining Stage 3 childcare represents CalWORKs' broken promise to these families, and this is something that Senator Mitchell referenced when she talked about welfare reform and our promise that, look, your cash aid stops, but we provide supportive services. It results in lowball caseloads because when families drop out, they can't get on. And so then when we make projections for the following year of Stage 3 caseloads, we're sort of ratcheting down the program. Ratcheting down the program that was envisioned and is embodied in the Education Code. And it also hurts families seeking non-CalWORKs childcare, as it adds families who should be receiving CalWORKs childcare to the torturous wait lists, when they really are torturous, as you've heard, for non-CalWORKs childcare. Changes to the CalWORKs program over the past 5 years have made it far more difficult for parents and children in poverty to obtain CalWORKs childcare, and far easier to lose it. New participation rules under the 24-month clock since 2013, new exemptions put in 2009, taken out in 2015, particularly young child exemption, created confusion about which parents were eligible for child care, for what activities, contributing to low uptake rates, and high loss rates between Stage 1 and Stage 2. And those high loss rates I'm referencing in particular through sanctions and through other related problems. The change from a 60-month to a 48-month lifetime limit narrowed the window for a family to get on and enroll in CalWORKs childcare in Stage 1 and Stage 2, and they, because of this language, then lose their chance to get into Stage 3. The Education Code states that parents are eligible for Stage 3 childcare so long as they're income eligible and engaged in eligible activities, and that the 2-year time limit for obtaining Stage 1 or Stage 2 is not intended to limit eligibility for childcare under Stage 3. The Child Care Law Center's proposed amendment will help CalWORKs families who never received childcare due to the challenges of navigating a gauntlet of changes to the CalWORKs program. It will reduce pressure on the wait list for non-CalWORKs childcare, and it will help restore the CalWORKs childcare program to its purpose to support low-income families so long as Stage 3 funding is available and the families are engaged in eligible activities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That would be a way that we could perhaps catch later these Stage 1 families who aren't part of the 29% uptake that are out there eligible. We're not quite sure what's going on, that later at least they could perhaps pick up and receive child care. Any questions of any of the investment panel before we open it up to public comment? Let's, folks, feel free to queue up for public comment. We got some information for you, Senator Stone. According to the LAO, thanks LAO, currently we pay approximately $150 million for AP admin rates at the current rates. For an additional 2.5%, that would be an additional $36 million. I would argue that there's also another way of looking at it, not just what the total cost is, but I may be wrong, but at one point in time, California was the only state that the Department of Education didn't act as an internal alternative payment administrator. California contracts with these nonprofit organizations to do the work. I wonder what CDE's admin rate is. If CDE were to take that responsibility over and make the payments, what it would cost us. These are nonprofit organizations who probably aren't paying, aren't paying the same admin rate, don't have pensions, no retirement as state employees. So there's another way of looking at it, that contracting with nonprofit organizations to do this work could be saving us more than it would cost us if, like other states, Department of Education made those payments to the contract providers, the child care providers. So it would be an additional $36 million to ask your question.
Thank you to the LAO for answering that question so timely, and I agree with you. You've got a public entity that oversees a program. The costs are, of course, are going to be much more than the private sector. So, thank you.
Thank you. Again, 1 minute, please. First witness. Thank you.
Janine Micheletti, representing the California Alternative Payment Program Association. A couple things in regards to alternative payment programs and the proposals before you is that we greatly support reinvestment in the administrative. And let's be clear, the alternative payment programs really are economic agents of change. Back in 2007-8, it was one family caseworker to every 40 families. We're at one caseworker now to, on average, 185 families. Ooh. One agency in LA has reported one caseworker to every 315 families. If you only talk about rates and an increase in slots, you're going to increase those caseloads on the caseworkers. And I want to just really briefly speak. All of the work that leads up to the alternative payment program, making a payment to a child care provider chosen by a family, is not paid for. It's important to understand that because 30 to 60% of the families who seek child care from an alternative payment program are not eligible. So the work goes unfunded. The CCDBG, really quickly, CCDBG does not recognize eligibility determination and redetermination as part of administrative costs. So I'd like to put that on the table. And then finally, to the Law Center, the language that you put on the table is interesting. In 2010, 54,000 kids were thrown out of child care for stage 3. Only 33,000 came back. This may be an option. They fell off the cliff. Thank you.
Thank you. Next witness, 1 minute.
Nicole Wortelman on behalf of the Alameda County Board of Supervisors. We're supportive of many of the proposals introduced and appreciative of them, and in particular, we're supportive of the Women's Caucus proposal.
Thank you. Next witness, 1 minute.
Yes, good afternoon. Celia Ayala from LAUP, and just in support of the investment, and to think about that you're going to be reinvesting because some of the earlier local and or First 5 LA or First 5 California early investments are going to be going away. So in LA County, we will be losing thousands of preschool spaces. Continue to invest in the future of the children. Thank you.
Thank you. Next witness, 1 minute.
Hi, Gina Alyan, CEO of Professional Association for Childhood Education. Again, we're in support of the Women's Caucus, as well as the update in the state medium income, as well as annual visits.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Next witness, 1 minute.
Hi, first thing I want to do is clarify my previous comments. I believe very strongly in having licensing look inside programs and make sure that there's quality there. I just want them trained.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Okay. And then I rise in strong support of the Women's Caucus $600 million. What happened when you raised the RMR, my teachers effective January 1st across the board got a 10% increase in their pay. They're also getting an additional 3% to their retirement, and I am going to be covering all of the lead teachers' full health benefits. That's what I was able to do with what you did. And so I'm asking for you to take a look at the state-funded preschool SRR and the RMR. It'd be awesome if it was combined, because then there wouldn't be disparity, and eventually tier it for quality. You wouldn't pay the same rate at a Hotel 6 as you would at the Renaissance. And so when somebody's providing Title V quality that's been verified, their teachers have a bachelor's or a master's degree, you really need to pay more for that program, because we do a better job preparing those children to enter kindergarten healthy and ready to learn. So we ask for a worthy wage for our teachers. They deserve it.
Thank you. Next witness, please. 1 minute.
Linda Sato with the California Child Care Resource and Referral Network. Support all the testimony on the investments. Just want to underscore the one-time technological investments. I think it'll help meet the consumer education requirements in the federal Child Care Development Block Grant.
Thank you. Next witness.
Hi, thank you. Sherry Springer with Californians for Quality Early Learning, CEQUAL, and we support the Women's Caucus. But in addition to the 10,000 slots that they want to do, and especially for the infant toddlers, without the increase in rates, you won't be able to provide the slots because they can't be affordable. So thank you.
That's why it's both of them are in there, for just that reason. Next witness, please.
Hi, Kate Miller with Children Now. As part of the broad coalition, First 5 California and other partners, just reiterate our support for a broad investment this year. Wanted to speak specifically to the quality investments, thinking about what we could do, some foundational steps this year with limited dollars, looking at the Prop 98 side of things. I've circulated a proposal that we'd be interested in talking with you more, but really looking at using one-time Prop 98 dollars to establish a work group, a community college statewide work group that could really look at establishing recommended standards and practices for their ECE programs and the lab schools, and really look at making some recommendations about fiscal models for sustainability, expansion. The money would be one time over a 3-year period, and could really help shore up the laboratory schools and sort of think about the future professional development and the higher education's role in that. So please take a look at the proposal, and we will be following up with you more. Thank you.
Thank you. Next witness.
Hi, Celine Crimston from Educational Enrichment Systems in San Diego. Just wanted to talk a little bit about that SMI that's been we've talked about a lot today. Raising that SMI, as Senator Stone had said, is really going to keep those families in. If you want them to work towards self-sufficiency, that's the only way to do it, so they don't have to turn down these raises and turn down these job promotions. But on the other end, just to make sure that everybody understands, is that when those families are in the program and they have to pay a fee, that is not money that we just send to the state. That is money that we have to convert into serving more children. So it does help the issue with slots. So the longer the families stay in, the longer that they're paying a fee, we convert that money and we serve more children. Because we aren't going to serve more children unless that rate goes up. We were an agency that did not apply for that funding because we won't do it. It's not affordable. And because in San Diego, we've given up our infant toddler care. It's too expensive to run, and we're only doing preschool now.
So, but what's your annual family fee? If you roll it into actual more slots, what's your average per parent fee on top of the subsidy?
I believe, I don't have a scale in front of me, I believe that the top rate there is about $17 a day for a family.
Okay.
So that money goes in, if they don't have receipts for other child care, that money goes straight into the agency and we convert it into more slots.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Senator Black, I'll turn it over to you. Bring us home, sir.
Well, thank you, Senator Mitchell. I would just like to thank all of those who testified on panels, those members of the public who made comment. A lot of good information, a lot of need clearly in the area. We do have dollars, at least in Prop 98, that we can try to repurpose towards some of the needs we've heard today. And we will look at dollars that are invested in other programs that maybe aren't as productive as early learning and child care. And we have the expert here to my left, and working with her, hopefully we'll see some good developments this year. So Senator Mitchell, Senator Stone, thank you both.
Thank you.
And this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, sir.